Hey everyone, my name is Mitch Whitcamp. I'm a Utah-based hobbyist fabricator that loves to build motorcycles, but now I'm committed to building my dream truck. Follow along on my journey to build a full metal wide-body C10 that I've wanted to build for years. On today's episode, I go through my process of building a roll cage for the first time. But the real question is, did I use too many dimple dies or not enough? You tell me. All right, so the first item on the list would be base plates, which is of course the four corners of where the roll cage is actually going to mount to the body. And then the actual first bar that you end up bending, because everything kind of mounts onto that, is your main hoop, which is the back hoop that's going to go above your head. So I'm going to have to get a little unique with how I'm going to do this, because I have this little notch for the wing. But let's get working on the base plates. Let's bend the first main hoop, and then we'll see what needs to be bent next. So this is actually going to be the first roll cage I've ever made, which I'm probably going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's fine. But I do have YouTube University, which has helped me figure out kind of the gist of how to make a roll cage. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a test bend. I threw down some inch increments because I just want to understand when doing a 90 or 45 degree exactly how much material I use depending on this radius. I can't remember. So I figured this is the easiest way. Also, something I saw on YouTube is clamping down a little digital gauge on the end. That way you can keep it true and straight. So on the main hoop, it's gonna be straight. So I wanna keep it straight. Another thing that I saw some people do is they have their little wire template for the angle that they're using. And so this is the first approach, or the first thing I'm gonna try doing. I do have an angle finder that I could definitely use, but I feel like this is pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna test this out and see if I can make my main hoop. So now that the main hoop is in place, tacked in place, I threw in one of the seats just to get an idea where I'm gonna put the seat belt or harness bar. So with the harness bar, you don't want the bar above your shoulders, and you don't want it too far below. So generally speaking, I believe it's from 0 to 20 degrees down is the most that you would want the bar to be below your shoulders or below the openings. So I threw on my angle finder, so it's 82 degrees. So I have a 8-degree inward slope, and so I'll throw that, once I measure this bar, I will throw it into my pipe cutter at 8 degrees, and I should be able to get a pretty tight fit. So after bending my main hoop, I realized it's a lot harder than it looks to get all your angles right and everything. So I decided I'm gonna try something else. So I bought a bunch of this, just round stock that's easy to bend. This radius is the same on my tube bender. So I'm gonna start messing with this piece to get my next part of the roll cage done, and that way I have a template that I can take to my tube bender and just try to replicate this with the tube. Okay, now it's time to start dimple dyeing some pieces of metal to throw on the roll cage. Why? Because it makes it stronger and it just looks cool. So I bought this set of dimple dyes of different sizes, so you just drill out the hole of the appropriate size. For example, this is a 1 inch, drill a hole, and then you throw it in the press and dimple dye it, which just makes this plate a little bit more rigid and stronger, and then I'll weld this to the frame and then to the cap. So I threw up some tape for the X-bar on the main hoop, and I went ahead and bought this tool. So what it kind of does, I forget the company name, but I'll throw it in the description. It's actually a pretty useful tool. I haven't used it yet, but I feel like it's gonna make getting some of these bars that have just unique angles pretty straightforward. So what you do, so it has this laser on the inside, and wherever you're gonna take the hoop or take the bar is where, and then, so move this tape out of the way. So I'm gonna form this to the bar where I want it to touch, and then you bring the laser at the same time. So as you're forming the back of these pins and adjusting it to the angle, you're making sure that your laser is going exactly to the spot that you want. So I'm gonna measure these out, cut some bars, and then I'll start messing with this and see how easy this tool is. So I'm gonna start working on the door bars for the truck. So I've bent this first piece, as you can see, it'll go somewhere in this area. But something I have to keep in mind as I'm doing this is, even though this truck isn't a tube chassis truck, I want to try to incorporate the frame and the roll cage and make it like a semi-tube chassis, so I'm gonna tie in the frame into tie in the roll cage to the front of the frame and then the rear of the frame. This way it'll help make the frame a little bit more rigid. And so when I'm doing the door bars, I'll bring this one up to here, I'll put some triangles in here, and then I'm gonna carry the tubes, or carry the roll cage up to the front of the frame. I'm not gonna do it right now, but because I'm still working on my upper and lower control arms, but when I'm doing the door bars, it'll kind of make sense once I get all the pieces in place on why they are where they are. All right, so before I start pushing the roll cage up through the firewall in the back of the cab to tie into the frame, I'm gonna start gusseting a lot of sections of the frame in here, which just with the dimple dies. So I'll probably do this section up here, some stuff on the back, and then also up here on the roof, I'm gonna dimple die this whole section. And that's the main reason for that is I want to carry a lot of the load that's going to the back of the frame, and so I'm going to have some cross members that come up here, and so the load is going to be pushing this way. So I want to gusset that, dimple die that. So I'll get working on a bunch of dimple dies next. A 115 dimple dies. I'm not counting. I mean, you're counting? Who's counting? I'm not counting. I'm counting. So we've got most of the dimple die sections done. So these two are for the back of the roof where the wing is. This is for the bottom, kind of where the bottom of the roll cage where the door opening is. This is up on the top of the roof, and then this is of course in the front of the roof. So now that I'm done making these, let's get them tacked into the truck and see what it looks like. All right, that's gonna be it for this video. So on the next video, there's two goals I wanna try to accomplish. The first goal would be carrying the roll cage out back, which would be cutting the holes in the cab to tie the roll cage into the frame, and then also incorporating wheel chucks for 2 motorcycles in the back. So that's gonna be a kind of a fun little project since I love building motorcycles, and I mean the goal is to be able to haul 2 of my bikes in the back of this truck while I'm driving it. And so the way I'm gonna have wheel chucks and everything is gonna be pretty unique. The second goal, if I get my control arms done, because there's a clearance issue, or at least knowing where the control arms will be and how they'll actuate, is carrying the roll cage up to the front of the truck and tying the roll cage into the front of the frame. So those are my 2 goals for the next video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Leave a comment, and we'll see you next time.